I would like to call back to order the meeting of the CRA that was continued from earlier this afternoon, and the time is 7:08 p.m. And I believe we were still discussing item 8.3. I'll read it again just for the purposes of those who may have just turned in. And 8.3 is the resolution number 22-8 adopting amendments to the Northwest Parking Lot Beautification Incentive Program for the Downtown City Center CRA. And I believe when we left, Commissioner Schoaf, you had your hand up, so we'll go straight to you.
Thank you, Mayor. As part of our discussion, we were looking at, this is a parking lot beautification program, so it could be any parking lot throughout the Northwest. Correct. The ones we've targeted are church parking lots.
That's correct.
So we end up in a place where we have non-tax-paying entities receiving taxpayer dollars with no guarantee of a public benefit. So I get the higher level of increased aesthetics equals increased for everybody. I think my issue is on the structure of this. Could we get to a place where we structure it like a long-term lease for 10 years with an upfront payment so that we're guaranteed the use of those lots for the public benefit? Because right now, that's not what's happening in the program. We're saying it will, we'd like to use them for valet, and there's just a lot of loose terms around it. So I think if I could kind of structure what my thoughts are around some of the issues that I have with this, is that we have non-tax-paying entities receiving taxpayer dollars with no public benefit spelled out. So I guess that would be what I would request, to get back to a place where we could really spell that out a little more clearly. I'm with you on the higher level of trying to improve aesthetics and get there, and that's going to take a little bit of incentive from government side, because private entities are going to continue to use because it's just a place to park cars for them, but for us it's about improving the overall aesthetic.
Thank you, Commissioner Schoaf. I'll work with the legal department to show you some language that we've used in the past. One of the stickler points is that if the lots are not used for public use, they do not get our funds. That's just how the language is written, but we can certainly get you back some draft language so that we can make you comfortable in that regard.
Yes, and I think if we could work it back a little bit, I mean, I know a lot of times we move things forward and then kind of take it back. I guess my request would be to have those things clarified before we move forward on this, but I am 1/6 of this body.
It's not an unfair request if there's work to be done on it. Let me get Commissioner Lambert, then I'll go to Mr. Root.
Thank you. Just into that point, right before we took a break, you mentioned that we'd not reached out to the churches yet to get their buy-in on this. And so this may be a moot point if they're not interested in doing this. I don't know if...
I can respond to that. So, yes, the Payne Chapel and Tabernacle, no, I have not. However, Friendship Baptist Church, they have agreed to participate. And given the fact that we've done one before, I kind of know what the structure of the agreement is going to look like, which is going to require public use for a 10-year period. There is some maintenance language that we can tighten up to be sure that the improvements that are done are maintained over that 10-year period. Someone asked before we disbanded whether or not the parking lots could be used by a private entity for pay. That is expressly prohibited in the current language. So we can get that all back to you. If you'd like to table this and we come back and spell that out more specifically, that's fine.
Mr. Root, you had some input?
I was just going to express to the board that this is not a mission critical item. So we have time to work it. If the board is not comfortable with this item, happy to go back and work on it a little bit more, get some more outreach from the churches to make sure that they are in fact interested in doing something like this, and bring it back to you at a later date.
No, I think that's probably a good idea, and even during that time, sit down with the individual commissioners and try to address their concerns before
Agreed.
It comes back to us as a body. And I believe that would require a motion. But before we do that, I want to make sure we have all the commission comments. Any board member comments? Because we do have a card. So Darren Studstill.
For the record, Darren Studstill, 401 North Rosemary. The reason I put in the card, because 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I made a decision to open up a business in the Northwest, the number one hindering condition in that neighborhood was access to parking. for people to come up and do business in this neighborhood. Now, I'm excited about the opportunity that we're trying to alleviate that that stronghold in the community. But I would like to, I'm a little concerned about is the access to all in there. Are we including our businesses to have the access? And is this program acceptable to everybody? I know for me, when I first started, I had nothing but land, but I had a lot of regulation that said I can't not have parking here or things there. And I'm excited that we're leaving it, but I don't want to make sure we leave other businesses behind. If we're just doing it and our focus we want to contribute to the sunset, I want to make sure we go to those businesses and make sure we're leaving their concerns also, okay? And also I'm concerned about, I don't know if I'm hearing you, Jenny, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the match that's coming with these parking lots, we're alleviating, because I know it was a match before.
Correct.
Okay?
That
That
is
is
the
the number one reason some of our programs in the CRA in the Northwest are not utilized is because property owners like my family is concerned about that match. And now we're alleviated because we want that. I think we need to have a discussion of that holistic approach. And if we can do it for this, we also, if we can do it for other programs we have. I just want to make sure we have that discussion before we do this, and then everybody's looking at us and going, well, they did it for this, but they're not doing it for this. So I just want to make sure as we alleviate the match, because that's one of the strongholds in the neighborhood, is I can't come up with the funds. I can't come up with the funds. But now, when the city's interest, now it's like we don't need a match. So I just want to make sure we're conscious and sensitive to those areas when we're talking about programs and stuff like that. When people are saying, and this is my last thing I'm saying, when we have the sunset, we gave $3 more million to the sunset after budget, and now we're giving something to parking when my concerns are not met. I'm not talking about me, but I'm talking about other business owners in that area. So I just want to make that point while I had that opportunity. Thank you.
All right, thank you. There are no there's nothing in the portal, I take it, Madam Clerk. Okay. So comments, it sounds like there was a consensus to table this for the time being. We probably need a motion to that effect if I'm reading the crowd correctly. So if there's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Warren.
move to, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry?
I would just like to respond or just put a comment out in reference to the comments made by Mr. Studstill. So what I understood from that was that there's been a deterrent to participate in the parking program the way that it existed, because making an investment of $50,000 that will be matched without that $50,000 generating revenue was not something that the businesses in the community found feasible. But parking has always been an issue. And now with this opportunity, we would like to see that for-profit businesses have the opportunity to participate in this program in the same way that we're presenting it or proposing it for the nonprofit community. And what does make sense to me as well is that these are businesses or entities that are contributing to the tax base. And when we drive their revenue by providing something as simple as parking, there is an opportunity that increases that they'll be able to do more business and pay more in taxes. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we'll be able to just see that cycles properly.
May I just have one final
Yes.
response? This program is for existing lots. It's not to build new parking lots. Let me just be clear for the record on that.
But with this, they would be able to
Do improvements to the existing.
correct,
Correct.
as well as create additional spaces and things
No,
like that
not
that could
additional.
exist.
Just existing parking lots. They
It's
cannot.
it's an additional, it's the same space, the same square footage, but through this grant, they may have the opportunity to acquire
Reconfigure.
more, to create more spaces.
Not expand.
Not larger, not beyond the square foot. The square footage would remain the same, but the spaces in that square footage could be impacted as a
Potentially,
result.
they could
Right, so-
reconfigure them.
So yes, you could essentially rearrange the parking geometry on the lot where you could realize more spaces by maybe shrinking, or just reorganizing it in some way that's a bit more efficient, absolutely.
Okay, again, I don't think this is quite yet baked. So I would suggest that we continue it. Commissioner Fox.
I just had one clarification. I know I asked this earlier, but this is not specifically just for nonprofits or churches. This is for all surface parking lots.
That's correct.
So you have identified some because they're proximity to the sunset, but that doesn't mean others could not apply for this.
That is correct.
Okay.
And we've also removed the locational requirement, or that's the proposal. Right now, it's restricted to Tamron and Rosemary, which would exclude Mr. Studstill's lot. But this new provision would include Mr. Studstill's lot.
Okay, I will entertain a motion if there's any more comments or questions. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to continue this item to another meeting.
Do we need a date certain?
You do not.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Root, you and staff go back to the well a little bit. You've heard some of the comments. Maybe tweak it. Have some meetings with individual commissioners, make sure their concerns are accounted for, and then bring it back.
Understood.
Great.
All right? There's one more item? Oh, yeah, this is money. Okay, item 8.4, resolution number 22-11F, approving the appropriation or transfer of CRA funds in fiscal year 2021-2022 for the purpose of improving the pedestrian passageway located in the 500 block Clematis Street, adjacent to 509 Clematis Street. Mr. Rube, who's doing this?
Thank you, Mayor. And if I could just take a moment, I just want to acknowledge that tonight things were not buttoned up as part of this agenda, and I just want you to know that that did not go unnoticed. And moving forward, I value this board's time and understand that you have a lot of decisions to make, and that moving forward, we will be much more efficient and prepared to make sure that the items brought forward are accurate and reflect exactly clear direction about where this board is going. So just rest assured that it will be addressed immediately. So with that, this is a fiscal resolution. We've been working on a project now and on the 500 block of Clematis Street. And as part of that project, there's also been some, obviously some recommendations from our audit committee about making sure that funds are brought forward and appropriated to specific projects on a regular basis. So this was originally going to be brought forward to you as part of a larger budgetary cleanup that we have anticipated for March. However, because we are very close to executing the project, we do need to bring it forward a little bit early so that we can go ahead and make sure that we pay for the services to make the public realm improved. So that is why it's coming for you today. Next slide. So today we're real quick, we're going to go over a quick overview of where the passageway is, what the funding transfer includes, the scope of the project that we're working on, which includes a couple of moving components, and then lastly, give you a status and timeline. And hopefully you will, there is a little bit of levity in this presentation, so I hope you enjoy it. Next. So just to get your bearings and for hopefully we still have some audience at home watching, to the north is Banyan Boulevard, to the south is Clematis Street. East and west is Quadrille and Rosemary Avenue. And so the passageway is really wedged in between a couple of properties, and we have three businesses that are adjacent to it. And that passageway is really, is it not going to go? It didn't go.
It didn't go. Yep, you're right.
Okay. Well, there was supposed to be, to show the path that would be used, through the passageway down through that yellow box to connect the Banyan and Clematis Street corridors, so that it creates that pedestrian access. Because on the east side of the garage, the sidewalk was removed for safety purposes for Brightline. Next slide. So the current, as it relates to, this is a beautiful picture of the current status of the passageway, although it has been updated because we've done some recent improvements as part of the streetscape. There is one license in place with Subculture Coffee. They just provide cafe seating there, and that allows them to do that on a regular basis because this is city-owned land. The northern section does go all the way to Banyan Boulevard, so you can make that connection once the Banyan streetscape is almost completed. So you can make that safe, comfortable connection. But the idea is that we continue to build on that safe, comfortable connection and actually make it interesting. Next slide. So the funding transfer that is coming for you today is to take $32,000 from the reserved for future projects line item. And that is to really include the fence and dumpster enclosures, because that was something that the planning department really wanted us to address. And you can see it there in the middle of the alley down by the palm tree in the photo. We'll be lighting up that passageway, and that also includes lighting up the public art that will be installed. We built in a little bit of contingency, and then of course, just in order to get it to a point where we can improve it, we did have to do some cleanups, and we've already incurred some of those costs. So it's just to put all of that together in one project line item. That is what's included in the financial resolution tonight. Next slide. So the project scope includes quite a few things. We've already approved the public art. You may recall this last year. We approved the natural beauty, and that will be installed shortly. We anticipated to do some awning work. However, the tenant, Subculture Coffee, did take that on and replace those tenants under their own, or those awnings under their own costs. And next, obviously, the main things were cleaning up the fencing and the electrical and lighting as part of the, to complete out the project. Next slide. So this gives you an idea of where some of the lighting is going to be addressed, the uplighting and downlighting for the passageway. Again, lighting is a big part of making safe, comfortable connections. We've moved that art a little bit higher, so you'll actually be able to see it a little bit clearer, and you'll have that uplighting as you drive in on Banyan Boulevard, so it should really look spectacular as you're coming into the city. Next slide. This is an overview, a site plan of the work that will be done, and just to point out a couple of things. The dumpster enclosure is the main area to the north that will sort of clean up and make sure that all the trash is hidden. The security fencing is really important. That was something that's been requested by business owners, and it has also seen as a bit of a practice that's used in other cities that was identified in some of our discussions with the DDA. They've been very helpful in sort of helping us think of this through a little bit. The awnings right there are already installed, and the stars just identify where the businesses are located so that you can see 3 businesses could potentially have access to this passageway, which is important for future licensing purposes. Next slide. So the timeline for the work looks like this. We've already done some of the electrical work for the passageway, so that is completed. We're continuing to make sure that it's clean and maintained. I've been having discussions with those property owners, and we'll continue to do that. And that's primarily, one is to just let them know about the work that's going on. It is our area that we're responsible for, but also to get them thinking about as we address future licenses. And the idea is that perhaps we would bring back updated and new licenses to the city commission, not the CRA board, because it is a city-owned land. Those licenses would come back to the city commission for consideration, what those could look like. So we've already started some of those conversations. March, we expect Anthony to install his art, as well as begin work on the dumpster enclosures and the security gates. All in all, this project should be wrapped up by April. Next slide. So with that, we recommend approval of Resolution 2211, and hope you have enjoyed the presentation and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, I do have a question. But what was that flying across the screen there?
That was a T-Rex. It was a T-Rex.
A T-Rex?
It was a T-Rex.
Which, I missed the connection.
So I don't know why, but in one of the slides, the original slide that showed where the passageway was, there was supposed to be a T-Rex that walked down the path and went from Banyan Boulevard and went on his way to the waterfront using the passageway. And it had a
So that was
T-Rex
called
theme.
T-Rex?
Yeah, it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, yeah, T-Rex. Because we
Did
have
anybody else know
T-Rexes that always randomly appear in our
Where
city.
was I? So that was supposed to be called T-Rex, that whole thing?
It was a T-Rex, yeah.
Okay, my apologies, I missed that meeting, I guess. Okay,
There he goes.
enough. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Schoffen and Commissioner Warren.
Thank you. Just one question for you,
Sure.
Chris. I'm totally supportive moving this forward, but I think that the timing is really important because when you see the pictures of current condition, there's a bunch of, plastic racks stacked up back there
Yep.
and the dumpster. And I know we're building the dumpster enclosure, but when the artwork is installed, the tenants are aware that they can no longer put that stuff back there because I think it would be very shameful to have this beautiful piece of artwork and then a dumpster and empty plastic racks next to it.
I will tell you, it's an ongoing struggle that I have, and we've taken it upon ourselves to remove things when necessary. And just today, I brought it to our Andy, who handles the contract with Property Works, about what the status is, because he's managing this project as our construction manager, and asked him about those signs. We don't know who they belong to. If they are Public Works, we know that there's street closures for the 500 block, if they're theirs. We're finding that people seem to want to use this as a storage space, but once we gate it off, that storage cannot occur for lots of reasons, namely because it's a safety issue. We have to maintain access for both emergency services and FPL because there's a vault back in there. Mm-hmm. And without making sure that it's clear, it could hinder some type of vehicle's access through there. So without a doubt, it will remain clear even if we have to essentially remove it ourselves.
That would be great. I think this one's particularly sensitive. Natural beauty will represent one of the largest depictions of people of color in our city.
Yes.
And it's extremely important that this area remains clean and clear and ready for people to come observe this art. So I appreciate it.
Couldn't agree more.
Commissioner Warren and then President Peduzzi.
Mr. Rook, I'd just like to thank you for your commitment to excellence. I saw that evidenced this evening. I know that in a pursuit of excellence, it's not always comfortable, but it is certainly always necessary. So I just want you to know that we appreciate the work that I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
So that we can ensure that our CRA continues to move in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So you can say nice stuff. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I had a quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. President, yes.
Thank you. The security fencing, is it anticipated, what are the anticipated hours for having it not accessible, or is it, I assume it's going to be open most of the time?
Sure. So as part of the efforts to address safety and security in the passageway, one of the first things that we've done, and this was actually a few years ago now, a couple of years ago, we posted signs up there that said passageway closed from 12 p.m. to 7 a.m. So the idea is that the passageway would be open from 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. And what we're hoping is with the license agreements with the businesses, this is where the businesses come into play, is helping us manage those access of operations. And that's, it seems logical if, especially with cafe seating and having a coffee shop in there, that they would be able to help us, make sure that the gates are open and closed on a daily basis. So that we can make sure that it does remain safe and secure. But those license terms, we have one currently in place, but the fences are not up. So once the fences are up, we can build on that existing license. But I anticipate that you will have new license considerations coming forward shortly.
And is it anticipated that the business owner there, the coffee shop, will be responsible for making sure that those fences are secured?
They would be responsible for opening and closing them, yes. But understand that a lot of the responses to cleaning up this passageway have come from the businesses about the need for safety and security in the passageway.
Right, I just didn't realize that business is open that late, till midnight.
They originally were actually open till 2 a.m. and reduced their hours to midnight.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 22-11F.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. All right. This meeting is adjourned.